Well, hello, everyone out there. Welcome back to the History Shelf. I am your host, Peg. Uh, Today, we're doing something a little different, but very exciting. As many of you know, our country is celebrating its 250th anniversary this July. So there's a lot of excitement, a lot of different things going on in a lot of different realms. And today, we're not talking about books. We're talking about whiskey. So I'm probably going to get a brand new segment of subscribers from this. All the whiskey lovers in the world. But I want to introduce Ari Sussman, who works with JYPSI, right? Is that the name brand?
Yeah, Whiskey Gypsy. That's right.
Whiskey JYPSI. And they just distilled a very unique batch of whiskey set to release around the time of our it's called the semi quincentennial. So don't say that 5 times fast. And it's called the Declaration, but there's something unique about this batch of whiskey. So I'm going to introduce Ari and have him introduce himself and just tell us a little bit more about who you are, Ari, and what is so special about this particular batch of whiskey, and just give us a background on Whiskey JYPSI in general, I suppose.
Sure. Well, Peg, thank you so much for having me. I realize this isn't necessarily your typical guest or whatnot, but as we know, part of the story, certainly of early America, has to do with spirits, with whiskey, with rebellion, with whiskey rebellion, with agriculture, and drinking was part of everyday life in early America. The water, in many cases, was unsafe to drink, and so men, women, and children were drinking hard cider, beer, spirits, because that was the safest thing that you could consume.
Mm-hmm.
The water would get you sick. So just so we distillers think about early American history, not irregularly, because there was a lot of practices in whiskey making that farmers were instituting back then that we current contemporary whiskey makers can learn from. And that's one of the things that our brand looks at. So you mentioned my name's Ari Sussman. I'm a whiskey maker. Whiskey JYPSI was founded by 2 guys, Raj Alva and Eric Church. Raj Alva is a renowned sort of entrepreneur in multiple sectors, very successful guy. Eric Church is a multi-award winning country musician who has sold 40 million albums plus and tours the world and is a bona fide A-lister. Even though one of our co-founders is a celebrity, this isn't really a celebrity whiskey. There's no name on the bottle. What we have are 2 founders who are kind of whiskey geeks and wanted to do cool things with whiskey and explore what whiskey could be, and started a company to do that. And I was lucky enough to be made whiskey maker. And so we've been around for about 5 years now, and each one of the releases that we've put out has something to do with the ingredients or the intention behind the release. So one of the things that makes our whiskey company special, and then I'll talk a little bit more about this current release, is we look at using things like heirloom grains, full flavored heirloom grains in our whiskey. And of course, winemakers know that there's a difference between Cabernet and Chardonnay. Whiskey makers know that there's difference between Hazlitt rye and Rosen rye, and Yellow Dent No. 2 corn and Cherokee White Eagle corn. And just like chefs can make decisions about whether they want to buy commodity ingredients or really nice heirloom full flavored ingredients, we bring those same kind of choices to whiskey making. So that's kind of a little bit about our company and our background and who's involved and how we're a little different. Now, I think everyone in the company is a little bit of an American history geek, and the whiskey industry in general is kind of steeped in tradition. There is a lot of kind of jingoism and tradition and flag waving and kind of defaulting to the way that things used to be. There's a lot of that. It's kind of endemic to the industry. But whiskey has such an incredible role in American history that it's hard as a whiskey maker to not be kind of inspired by it and draw inspiration from it that ultimately ends up in a product, which is what happened here.
Mm-hmm. Do you consider it like another history question for you, like a cultural adhesive, like as this country was growing, how did whiskey kind of fit into the culture outside of just, drinking in your spare time, but did it bring people together in, different settings? And
yeah, so in early American history, there were a lot of farmers, right? Almost everyone, a lot of people were farmers, and grain, like fruit, spoils. It can go rancid. It has oil in it, so it will go rancid. It won't last forever. So making whiskey is what you did at the end of the season with your leftover grain. It was value-added agriculture. In fact, in many places, it was currency. You could purchase things with spirits, right? Because different states might have had different currencies, different monies as they were trying to figure out what was happening. And spirits are also a way of distilling the value of grain, but also compacting the volume. So very transportable.
Okay. Yeah.
You can trade it. You can trade it for livestock. You can trade it for money. You can barter with it. So it has a tremendous value agriculturally, economically. But then, of course, the tavern was sort of the centerpiece of social life and political life in early America. So it's where people came. It's where ideas were discussed, and obviously beer and whiskey and brandy and cider and those types of beverages were imbibed. So I think that that alcohol, whiskey in particular, was part of everyday culture in a way that is almost difficult for us to fathom.
Yeah, because I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I never knew that at the end of the season, farmers would have this excess grain. I did not know that. That's fascinating.
Yeah, you can either choose to let it spoil, or you can turn it into whiskey. In that way, it's preserved.
Okay.
Right, and the value is preserved. So before Prohibition, there were something like 5,000 distilleries. Before Prohibition in 1919, there were something like 5,000 distilleries in the United States. Most of them were farm distilleries because distilling and farming have always gone together. It was only during, post-Prohibition consolidation, which was, not a natural process, that we had this unnatural consolidation and homogenization of production, of whiskey production. A handful of very large distilleries. Many of them are still around today because they were essentially monopolies. But it wasn't always such. Whiskey was and is an agricultural product. Before the Revolution, most Americans drink rum. Well, most British colonists drink rum.
Yes.
And that was part of the whole unholy triangle, the slave trade, where slaves would essentially be brought to the Caribbean, work on plantations. The molasses would be taken up to Boston or New England to be converted into rum, which would be sold either back in England or in the Americas. But when the British were in control of America, rum was the main spirit. After 1776, British pushed out. America was still drinking a lot, but they turned to their farmers, particularly in Maryland and Pennsylvania, and rye whiskey became sort of the replacement. Rye whiskey was really the whiskey of revolutionaries of that entire generation after they stopped drinking rum because the British were no longer doing business with us at that time. And, at the time of his death, the biggest whiskey distiller in the country was George Washington. Right? He started the biggest distillery in the country, and he was the quantity of whiskey that he produced, something like 11,000 gallons a year. That is hard for guys like me to produce. That's a lot of whiskey.
Wow.
So he was a formidable early distiller in America.
Wow. That's something about Washington I did not know. But I am wearing this T-shirt. I wanted to recognize it today. Instead of hold my beer, guys, just imagine hold my whiskey. But that's George Washington. He's coming through. Yeah. He's coming through today in this interview.
George, the spirit is alive and well. Yeah, no, yeah. George Washington he made rye whiskey, and he made fruit brandy. And he made apple brandy and peach brandy. And he made a Maryland-style rye whiskey, which in Maryland, the style of rye whiskey was about 60% rye, which has a spicy flavor to it, 30% corn, which is sweeter, and then about 10% malted barley, which has essentially enzymes to help with the fermentation so that the yields would be good. And the whiskey that Washington made and the whiskey that was available during colonial times, it was probably not brown like we imagine whiskey today. That color, that brown, comes from barrels, from charred barrels. But 250 years ago, the whiskey would have been pretty clear. Maybe it would have been aged in or held, not really aged or matured, but just contained in a used wooden barrel that might have held something else before it. So maybe it was like a light beige, but mostly clear. It wasn't until the 1830s or so that we started using barrels, and that's also when bourbon kind of arose. So rye existed before bourbon.
Okay, that's fascinating. So I'm just going to back up a bit and ask, as you know, that the 250th anniversary was coming up. Was this idea brewing? No pun intended. At Whiskey Gypsy to create something that replicated or paid homage to?
Yeah. Well, we were trying to figure it out. We knew we wanted to do something because it's going to be a great party, right?
Oh,
so you want to work together as a group and conceive of ideas so you can bring something really great to the party on the 4th of July, 2026. And we started looking at early American whiskey making traditions, and very quickly, landed on George Washington and what he was doing, and what kind of inspiration can we draw from what Washington did. We did not want to make an unaged Maryland style rye. It's like moonshine.
Yeah.
So we wanted to use that as a foundation and figure out, okay, where would we take it with our own approach to whiskey making. And so we kind of came up with a novel idea, which is we took those proportions of grains, the 60% rye, 30% corn, 10% malted barley, and rather than get the raw grains, put them in a tub and let it ferment and distill the whiskey out of it, we started that as the proportions of what we call a whiskey blend. So the product that we decided was going to be inspired by George Washington's mash bill, by that 60 rye, 30 corn, 10% malted barley. But we wanted to find a really fantastic rye whiskey that could be 60% of the blend, a really great corn whiskey that could be 30% in a single malt, that could be 10%. And after many permutations and prototypes, we decided that the rye component of this blend was going to be an 8 to 12-year-old kind of sub blend, really great straight rye whiskey, 8 to 12 years old. The corn component was an 100% corn whiskey, aged 20 to 25 years old. So really good, really old, beautiful, deep flavors. And then the 10% malted barley was like an 8.5-year-old American single malt, which is a new category of spirit that was distilled in Virginia. So we found really great whiskeys that each of them express the grains that we were trying to represent, and we blended them together. So this is not like a historical reenactment. We're not like cosplaying as making colonial whiskey. We're inspired by it, but we're doing it in our own way, which is, a whiskey that we're really excited about. So we took these proportions of grain from George Washington's own recipe, right? That's how we came up with those proportions. And about 20 years ago, a group of distillers reestablished George Washington's distillery at Mount Vernon. It's there today. It's a really amazing distiller that makes phenomenal product. And when we shared a prototype of this blend with our buddies at George Washington, they were like, "Oh, this is pretty good. This is really good. How would you like," they offered us, some freshly harvested apple brandy barrels from George Washington's distillery. You could put the whiskey in there and let it age a little bit longer. I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So what started as being inspired by George Washington, in a sense, an homage to his distilling, ended up being a collaboration with George Washington's distillery at Mount Vernon, where they gave us these beautiful apple brandy barrels, and then we were able to age our whiskey in those brandy barrels, which gave it all kinds of aromas of fruit and apple, and also gave it a real direct tie back to the inspiration for the thing in the first place. That doesn't always happen when you're making whiskey. That was kind of like a little bit of serendipity.
Yeah. Now, so those barrels, those were actual barrels that were used by.
They weren't used 250 years ago. They were used in the new George Washington Distillery. Is actually a lot like the old one. There's no electricity. There are no pumps. The grain is ground using a water wheel mill.
Yeah.
And the stills are fired using logs and direct flame.
Mm-hmm.
And liquid is bucketed, right? So the new distillery at Mount Vernon is a lot like the old distillery at Mount Vernon, in the sense that there's no automation, no electricity, no technology. It's all of the same things that he would have done is what they're currently doing there. And they make phenomenal spirits, really phenomenal spirits. And they were able to share these barrels of apple brandy with us, which was pretty phenomenal.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And then you named this batch appropriately.
We called it the Declaration. It's a little bit of a declaration about whiskey making. Okay. And you might like this. I don't know. So, okay, before the Declaration of Independence, there was a document called the Little Camden Declaration, mm-hmm. where in Camden, New Jersey, in 1774, group of people got together and they basically said, we're Americans, we're willing to fight the crown. It was a declaration. It was a small declaration of independence that preceded the 1770, Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
And the date that they did that was November 5th, 1774.
Okay.
And you can look at the Little Camden Declaration. Mm-hmm. And we took those numbers, that date, that timestamp, 11/5/74, right?
Yeah.
And we actually turned that into the proof, the strength of our whiskey, which is 115.74 proof.
Oh, wow.
So it's high proof, it's flammable, totally combustible, proper, hot off the still. Whiskey is, aged 8 to 25 years old are the components, and the proof is a little head nod to this earlier little declaration from Camden.
That is such a neat little Easter egg, as we call it. Just
yeah,
because I saw the proof and I was like, wow, boy, you could blow the hair back on someone with
Oh yeah, Molotov cocktail strength. Yeah, this is strong enough. This is very strong stuff. But it's also, you can put a little bit of ice on it. You can put a little bit of water in it. It opens up. Absolutely. I think it's more. You can add your own water, and everyone can add their own favorite amount of water, right? Because it's mm-hmm. a subjective experience. But we thought it would be fun to even put another little Easter egg in there, and that's what the proof is.
Oh, that's so neat. Okay, so I'm going to be doing this. I've told Laura this, but I'll be doing my brother-in-law is a whiskey connoisseur, so he would know. He's going to be doing the taste test this weekend, and I'm going to be filming that and then editing on to the end of this video. So that's going to be fun because he knows his whiskeys. I mean, if I were to sample it, I probably would. I'd be like, it burns, I want someone who knows that their whiskey, So I can't wait to see when he tastes it. But and I'm going to tell him these little Easter egg facts. They're so neat. What are like the main notes? So this would also help me before our taste test. Like what can we expect from this the sample which you so graciously sent us?
Yeah, no. So this is a whiskey that's composed of 3 different fully mature whiskeys. Yeah. Right? It's a fully mature rye whiskey, a 20 to 25-year-old corn whiskey, the American single malt. Each mm-hmm. one of those is really phenomenal by themselves. Bringing them together in the proportions that we did, we had to actually try a lot of different versions of this, but the final components and the final ratios that come together, it's not a bourbon, it's not a rye, it's a very different kind of it's almost more European. It's a little bit lighter than a bourbon or a rye, which are kind of oftentimes very woody. This is not that. This is like a very balanced, surprisingly, like lots of nooks and crannies as you taste it, as your brother or brother-in-law tastes it, and it kind of sits on his tongue. He'll see that there's different waves of flavor that come out from each of the ingredients, not just from each of the ingredients, but the way that they interact with each other. And then there's this added kind of aromatic perfume top note of apple, which comes through because of those apple brandy barrels. So I would say it's got a lot of complexity. There's a lot going on, and it's one of these spirits where if he's able to sit with it for 10 or 20 minutes and let it open up and kind of revisit it, I think he'll find that the first taste and the last taste don't taste exactly the same.
Interesting.
It kind of evolves over time, and good wine does this too. A good wine in the glass is going to open up, swirl it around, and it will kind of, over the course of time, really get to the point where it's presenting itself strongly. Same thing with a complex whiskey. So I look forward to seeing what he thinks. But I can assure you, probably hasn't had a whiskey like this before, because these whiskeys have never been blended together before.
Oh, this is going to be something. I can't wait for this. I was going to ask, because I am not a whiskey drinker, is it typical for those who are really wanting to like fully appreciate the taste? Is it best to start with it just what do they call it, neat, no ice, just let it sit, like you said, breathe a little bit, and then sip slowly? Or how would you enjoy this so that I?
Great question.
Yeah.
What I would say is everyone's going to enjoy it differently, and there's no right or there's no wrong. Personally, I like to take I take a sniff, I take a teeny little taste, kind of let it roll around on my tongue, get a sense of how long it's lasting. What does it feel like? Is it viscous? Is it dry? And then generally I will add a little bit of water. I like to add like room temperature water to my whiskey, and I bring it down to a point where, if you imagine that there's sort of a curve, a bell curve, right? Where at the top of it, the flavor is optimized because it's at the right proof, because the right amount of water is there. That's going to be different, not only for everyone, but for each person at different times during the day or week or whatever. So when I'm really, when I have a good whiskey and I really want to enjoy it, I take a little sip, and then finding the right proof by just even taking a straw and dropping a little bit more water into it.
I see.
That's part of the fun. You kind of figure out where do I want this whiskey to be for me right now.
Right. And then that way you kind of, when you get that sweet spot, then you can say, okay, now either I remember, I'm going to write this down, add a little bit of this, or,
Might be totally different next time. The pH in your mouth is different. What you had for lunch, dinner is different. Every time you can approach the same bottle of whiskey, but you might be a very different person than the previous time you went to that whiskey. So every time is going to be a little bit different, and I think you kind of approach it with fresh eyes, and it's a one of one experience. Anytime you're doing that, puts you in the moment, connects you to being in the flow of time, and you just have to figure it out at that moment, and what you learn at that moment might not be applicable for the future.
So you've been doing this a long time, haven't you?
I've been doing it for a little bit. Yeah,
I was going to say, like, your background. If you want to speak a little bit more into how you got into this distilling, this is fascinating to me.
Yeah, well, the short of it is that I was working at the state capitol as a policy analyst, and I was really miserable. Didn't like it at all.
And it drove you to drink, right?
and was in the office. I was at the state capitol, bad lighting, drop ceiling, and all, and was offered the opportunity to help my buddy's grandmother, who ran a bed and breakfast in rural France. And so I quit my job and bought a one-way ticket. And when I got out there, I realized that I needed a little bit more pocket money than I had. So I got a job at a winery down the road, and I fell in love with winemaking. Ended up going back there for multiple summers, and for about 3 months at a time. And then the rest of the time, I'd find a really nice bar to work at in various places in the world. And I learned about hospitality, and I learned about the stories people tell around beverages and the difference between different types of wines and spirits and cocktails. Ultimately, I said, I make wine, but I'm serving cocktails. It would be nice to learn how to make spirits like I know how to make wine. And found that Michigan State University founded the first distilling program in the U.S. about 15 years ago.
Wow, okay.
And I drove up there and met with the professor. And I said, I think what you're doing is timely. I think this craft distilling scene is starting to take off.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a lot of scientists, which is great. I speak sort of the language of the industry. I can tell you what's going on behind the bar, what's going on with the distributors.
Right.
Let's combine our powers. And he bought it.
Yeah.
Hook, line, and sinker. And he ended up hiring me to manage the distillery at Michigan State for about half a decade. I did that.
Wow.
And we developed hundreds of commercially available spirits with farmers, entrepreneurs, companies big and small. So it was a really unique experience, unlike anything that existed anywhere else. So because of Dr. Berglund in Michigan State, I got a little bit of a fast track to being able to combine bartending and winemaking on one end with scientific spirits production on the other.
Wow.
And that's how I meet people like Eric Church and Raj Alva. They were familiar with some of the work that I did.
Mm-hmm.
They reached out, and when I learned that there was going to be a celebrity who didn't want to put his name on a bottle and he just wanted to have a really amazing whiskey journey, and Raj, just a brilliant person, the kind of person who you want to spend time with, and just kind of, how does this person think? How does this person approach challenges? How does this person approach opportunities? You know that if you're in an orbit with people like that, really unforeseen, fortuitous things might happen. And that's what the case has been. And this brand has been, it's an innovative challenger brand in that it is not abiding by tradition. It's taking sort of best practices from culinary and perfumery and winemaking, and trying to say, what can whiskey learn from all of our sister industries here, all of our sister traditions, and that's what we're doing. Those are the experiments that we do, and that's what
you're
we share
innovating
with our audience.
Yeah,
innovating by, in many cases, borrowing and stealing techniques from other industries, which is, I suppose, how it's done.
Yeah, but creating something new from all of that and learning along the way. Well, before we run out of time, I just want to check to see, like, this is a limited batch, correct? Are you?
Yeah. So the inputs themselves, this 25-year-old whiskey and this American single, these are rare components. They don't exist at scale, right? So we make as much as we can.
I see.
But it's hard to go out and make 25-year-old whiskey, right?
Yeah, that's true.
We find we have great relationships with brokers and with other distilleries that allow us access to some of their most prized stocks, and then we're able to acquire it. So we make as much as we can, and it's never enough.
It's never enough. So we don't know how long this batch will last. So if anyone out there is interested, you better. I'm going to link to the whiskey website in my comments below, so everyone check that out. Yeah, I didn't realize. Of course, you only have a limited supply of aged ingredients, so that makes sense. That you
alas, scarcity, and we make as much of it as we can. But like I said, it is never enough. It's available on the website if people are interested. It's we spent a long time trying to think, how could we bring what we do and tie it into this 250th anniversary in a way that would be fun and innovative and interesting, but really quality driven. It's about the quality and of the product itself, the quality of the narrative. We don't want to be out here making up stories. We love collaborating. As a brand, we love collaborating with folks and sourcing the best ingredients from wherever they come in the world. And for this, it was definitely to partner with George Washington's Distillery. That's the
hook right
best
there.
Version of this. Yeah.
That is a great hook.
Yeah, to partner with them on this project at this time. So it's a really great honor.
Wow. And I was looking at the because I have the sample bottle, but the full bottle, it's a hefty amount. That could, I mean, if you're just a moderate, whiskey drinker, that could last you a nice long time, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, yeah. It'll last a nice long time. You can bring it out when your special friends come over that might be history freaks or whatever. Say,
It's a
hey,
good
dude,
talking point. Yeah.
it's a good time. Well, in whiskey's about conversation, and we like making whiskeys that at least get a conversation going. You don't ever know where a conversation is going to end up. But all of the whiskeys that we make, whether it's using heirloom corn or sourcing oak from the Tronçais forest in France or collaborating with Mount Vernon or something like that, all of the whiskeys that we make try to tell a story and spur a conversation that's real and not based on marketing speak and smoke and mirrors.
Yeah,
there's enough of that. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask a fun question to end on. I think I know the answer, but maybe you'll surprise me. If you could have a pour of this whiskey with any of the founding fathers, who would you like to sit down and have a pour with?
Such a good question. So it's a hard one, right? Because so many of them. I remember when I was in the third grade, I did a report on Chaim Solomon. And it's always been in my head. Yeah. But the truth of it is I'm a Ben Franklin guy.
All right. Wow.
And it would have to be Benjamin Franklin. And this is called the Declaration. We're all huge fans of National Treasure. And we would love nothing more than for Nick Cage to try to steal a bottle of this and, steal the Declaration.
It's still that would be so much fun to see something like that. I'm really pleased that you said Ben Franklin. I was like, well, George Washington, obviously, but no,
Well, yeah, I mean, that would be great too. But if I could hang out with anyone from that time, it would be Franklin. I mean,
such a character.
Have you ever played one of the glass harmonicas, the glass bowls that he created?
No.
Sort of instrument.
No.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Oh my
beautiful, God. Ethereal. So, it's he basically took the concept of crystal glasses that you can run your finger over, and they all make different tones, and he just inlaid each one of them, right? And it spins on a spindle, and people could play chords. Oh, it's such a beautiful instrument.
What a genius. I mean,
amazing.
Who could think of that? That is amazing. Wow. Yeah. Love Ben Franklin.
Yeah. Look, electricity is connecting us right now, right?
That's right.
Anyhow, Benjamin Franklin would be the guy. But there are many, but Ben's at the top of the list.
Ben's up at the top. Respect.
I mean, Thomas Jefferson would be okay. We would definitely accept the opportunity to Adams, Jefferson, any of those guys would be great.
Yeah, of course. Hamilton, maybe.
Yeah. Well, Hamilton's an interesting one. He's got a whole the Whiskey Rebellion had a little something to do with. Hamilton wasn't always the distiller's best friend.
That's right. Now I'm remembering that little pesky rebellion that happened. That happened in Pennsylvania, right? And Washington had to.
It happened in Pennsylvania, and Washington, who was not yet a distiller at the time.
No,
president. He didn't become a distiller till after. He used the power of the federal government to put down a rebellion of whiskey makers, and then he became a whiskey maker.
Isn't that always the way?
Mm-hmm.
You shut down the little guy, and then I'll do it. And then
you become the biggest one in the country.
Exactly. Then you become the monopoly. What'd you say? He made 11,000
11,000 gallons of whiskey, which is a lot of whiskey. That's like a lot of whiskey. I'm very impressed.
11,000.
I mean, he must have been going 24/7 with good fermentations, which means there must have been relatively good sanitation.
Wow.
That scale at that time implies a production that was really sophisticated and not slapdash at all.
Well, I wonder who his workers were. I don't know if
his workers were slaves.
Okay, I was going to ask, were they
Yeah,
slaves?
there were 6 guys named Slade. So we know I can't remember them off the top of my head. There was a Scottish farmer who knew how to distill, who told Washington about the margins on creating spirits from his excess grain.
I see.
And then the stills themselves, in the operation itself, was definitely manned by slaves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is, this is American history. This is the good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
That's right.
And part of it is looking at it straight in the eye, right? And calling a spade a spade. And, and we think about that when we're talking about this distillery. It's a massive operation, and it was powered by slave labor.
Mm-hmm. Let's tell it how it is. That's how it was made.
That's how unfortunately that is how it was made, right?
Mm-hmm.
And apparently the whiskey was of really high quality. And and then what happened was, as whiskey moved further down south, rye is a cold weather crop. Rye grows where it's cold. It doesn't grow so well where it's warm. That's where corn grows, right? And so as whiskey traditions moved further down south, rye became supplanted with corn, and rye whiskey became supplanted with bourbon whiskey, which is corn-based.
Wow. It's just so interesting. I'm learning more because at Christmas I actually bought Dave, my brother-in-law, a brand new book that came out called the Whiskey Bible, and it's just full of just history of whiskey from every different country, continent, the variations, the history of like distilleries, and then it gives you like the best kind of malt whiskey and rye and the differences between, corn whiskey, rye. And it's just fascinating. I didn't realize it was so complex of
it's history in a bottle, right? Yes, it's the liquid in and of itself, but how the liquid gets to that bottle is generally the story of economics, politics, history, personalities, traditions that evolve over time. There's always a lot to a good whiskey. There's always a lot of backstory, a lot of subtext going on.
Wow. Well, Ari, you've really informed me. You've educated me in like 30 minutes. I know more about whiskey than I ever have.
Thank you for indulging in the ramblings of an old whiskey maker.
Oh, no. I've enjoyed this. And like I said, we're going to tack on to the end of this video once we do the taste test. So we'll have that in there. Dave and I will have some fun recording this. And so by the time everyone's watching this, it's going to cut away soon to the taste testing. But in the meantime, just want to thank you, Ari, for your time. And thanks for bringing this brand new whiskey, the Declaration from Whiskey Gypsy, to our attention. And I hope that this is going to, enliven some parties across America this July and beyond.
Thank you.
I want to get the water spots.
All right. Here we are, everybody. This is our Gypsy, the Declaration. This is our sample bottle. This is our taste tester. Say hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Happy American 250th anniversary.
Happy 250th. Happy VE Day yesterday.
There you go. See, he's all over that. All right, we're excited to try this. So this is our sample. And what we're going to do, we're going to pour it, and then we'll do the taste test.
Do it conversationally.
Yes. Dave is
Ooh,
transferred to a snifter.
little brandy snifter. Try to get a good nose off of it.
Okay. And let me tell you, I sniffed it, everybody, and it is strong.
It smells like some really good stuff.
Yeah. It's 115 proof.
It's got a sweet smell to it.
Yes, and that's what Ari, he did mention that.
I love that smell.
I love it.
It's almost brandy-like.
Okay, all right.
Or cognac, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while.
And here we go.
The sweetness carries through.
Okay.
I do taste some of the green apple.
It's the green apple from the Mount Vernon apple barrels. Just getting a nice good sip in there.
I can feel the tingle of the rye all the way back my tongue.
Oh, really? How does it taste like from other whiskeys you've had? What's the difference?
This one's definitely got that sweetness to it with the apple in it. Got some good, I want to call it spice,
Okay.
just because of the way it plays in my tongue. But taking it down is just a joy the whole time. The nose on it and everything is just...
Ooh, nice. Now, do you think this is a whiskey you would like to sip on neat, or would it be something that would also be good on the rocks or anything like that?
I think on the rocks, but it's really nice at 115 proof to be able to drink it neat. Because there are others that I've had in years past where you drink it and you get that,
Yeah, yeah.
the alcohol burn. You don't feel that with this.
Wow. Gosh, color me curious, but I can't do it, everybody. As I told Ari, I'm not a connoisseur, and I feel like I would just drink it and be like, it burns.
You see the legs on it, on the glass.
Oh yeah, and I love the color. I love the color.
Nice, deep color.
Ooh, look at that, everybody. All you whiskey aficionados out there.
Even you non-whiskey aficionados.
I know. It's making me curious, but I'll stick to my diet soda.
Want another sniff?
So I think this is a success. This is a... Oh yeah. Thumbs up.
Definite thumbs up.
So we're gonna toast George Washington, and we're gonna toast America.
Toast, George.
Toast.
Toast.
Happy. Oh, I like that. It's a great effect. So thank you, Whiskey Gypsy, for this sample.
Thank you, Gypsy Whiskey.
It's Whiskey Gypsy.
Whiskey Gypsy?
That's the name, Ryan. Yeah. Yep, and they make this legacy line, which with each batch has like some very singular thing about it that stands out, and with the declaration, it ties in with the 250th anniversary, bringing whiskey distillery back to distillery back to what it, what the roots were in colonial America.
I've seen some of those TV shows where they're trying to hunt down old whiskey recipes.
Wow, okay.
And I was wondering what something like that would be like.
Well, I think you're going to enjoy the interview with Ari, because that's what they're trying to do as well. They're trying to really reclaim the art of, small batch kind of whiskey making.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, if only it was available in Colorado.
It isn't, is it?
No.
Oh, no.
in none of the states around, if I remember the map right.
Oh, no. Okay, Ari.
Road trip.
Yep, road trip. Well, wow. So this was a success. Thanks again to Whiskey Gypsy for this opportunity. And we'll see if there's still any of this left on July 4th for you to celebrate. I don't know if it will be, but...
Thank you, Ari.
Yes. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.